Hello! Today I'd like to show you the new and improved version of the metro system. Unlike the previous one, which was kinda mumbly and barely worked, thanks to a couple new discoveries, I've been able to drastically reduce its size and also finally make it reliable, which you probably already saw in the intro with the pigs and the sheep zipping around, which I've confined in place now so that they don't run away. But let's get to it. This new metro platform and tram system, both will share the exact system, is much smaller, as you can see. This is just like a little demo for the station could look like. This will be a wall, then of course this will be a wall. All that the passenger has to do to embark on a journey is just press the button and we're off. And when we arrive at the station, we have about 2.5 seconds to decide what to do, and then we proceed to the next station. If we don't want to get off here, we just wait and we get going automatically. If you want to get off, just get off and the cart is despawned automatically. At the same time, should we not board the cart for whatever reason, the cart will also be despawned automatically. Pretty neat, right? The whole system is very small, uses very basic parts, and as a little bonus, I made sure when designing it to design it in such a way that this is impractical, so we will never do this, but two stations can be placed right aside each other with only one block space, and they will both work reliably and they don't interfere with each other. I think that's very neat. But okay, let's get building. To build one of these doohickeys, we will need one NOT gate, one timer, two state cells, which are basically the only expensive part of the whole thing, an empty detector, two any detectors, an embarking track, this is what grabs the player off the platform and puts them into a cart, a boarding track, this is a special track that can hold a cart in place and then release it, and finally two cart dispensers. Here I've prepared a little build area, so let's get building. One thing, and this isn't just me being stupid with not knowing which way the carts work, the state cell has a bit of a peculiarity as to how you can rotate it for all the signals to line up. So both the cars, both the metro and the trams, will have to ride on the left hand side of the road. There is simply no way around it because of how this part is oriented. So yeah, traffic has to go like this. So that's also how we will build a little example here. I will start by first just laying out a little platform so that we can start building. Okay, make some little space here, and let's start placing the first block. The first thing that we need to put down is the track that will hold the train in place once it arrives at the station. That's the first track. And secondly, we need to use an any detector and place it like so that the dot is facing to the left. And then we put another boarding track on top of it. This setup is used to enable the separation control. For all metro systems, we obviously need the cars to be separated. We can't have two people come into the station at once or chaos will ensue. This system is of course no different, except that it has a very small separation distance. As you can see, it holds one car in place, and then again, this is where the wall is, and it waits for the track to get clear before proceeding with the next cart. This helps prevent collisions and other messiness, so it's a pretty vital system. Let's stop this. There we go. Okay, so this is what we're building first, and this is also the most crucial part of the build. We need one little platform here of 2 blocks, and then we need to use our first state cell, and it's rotated wrong, so we need to use a screwdriver. There we go. When the pointy thing is pointing towards the hole, it is oriented correctly, and we need to set the interval to about 1 second. Works pretty well. This timing determines what's the minimum delay between one card leaving the station and another coming in. That's what its purpose is. Then we need to use a NOT gate and place it like so, and we have to make sure that the unpowered cable is facing towards the state cell. So now we have a situation where when a card is coming in, it's going to go through the first blocking track, but it's going to be stopped over here, which is where the passenger is going to decide whether to get off or continue forward. And to do this, now is the time to add the first card dispenser. This is the card dispenser that will dispense new cars onto the track. And above it we simply put a button and a little lamp just for visual flair. This metro doesn't have any sound signaling. That's kind of because to add sounds to this, I would have to drastically increase the size of this mechanism, and with it being so small, I kind of thought that it is a bit too much of a sacrifice. But continuing on, next up we need to use another any detector, the second one, and this time place it with the dot facing up. This is going to be for the embarking track. The embarking track, in order to grab a person from the platform into the cart, has to be powered. And due to the size of this mechanism, there really isn't a good way to squeeze in a lever or a redstone torch in here. So we simply use the fact that the any detector, when a car passes over it, will generate a redstone signal and therefore turn on this rail and pick up the player. So it's just like a little exploit. And then lastly, we need to use the one empty detector, and this is going to be to remove the empty card, so that if a person doesn't get in or gets off, we need to remove a card from the track. We can't just have a card continuing on and on and on, because otherwise it's gonna hit the render distance and probably stop in the middle of the rails and be a very bad day. So to not do that, we use the empty detector, we place it with the dot facing this side, and above it, this block is just so I can place this guy, we place another card dispenser, and this guy's job is going to be not to dispense cards, but to instead suck them in. And this is also another important thing about this design. This dispenser, which is going to dispense cards, always needs to have cards in its inventory. If it doesn't, then if a person presses a button, nothing will happen, and that's not going to be very good. However, it's not a disaster if it doesn't have cards. This guy, though, has to have its inventory entirely empty. If it doesn't, then were an empty card to pass through here, it would activate this guy again, and it would spawn another card, and it would be an absolute disaster. This is why, if we look at the demo thing, I have a wooden pipe constantly sucking out items out of this guy's inventory and placing it into this chest. It's absolutely crucial that this second dispenser doesn't have anything in its inventory. If it does, the whole system breaks. So, I actually ignored it for this demo just because the pipe kind of obstructed the view. But in the real Metro, you're going to have to... Well, in the real Metro, we're also going to have to put items in here, but that can be done with applied logistics, so there's just going to be one cable running through here. I'm not going to bother with this for this tutorial, because I haven't really figured this out yet. And also there's already kilometers of cabling run under the entire city, and it would be a real waste of time to have to rebuild all of it. So I may decide to do it with red power. Who knows? I don't know. You don't know, which is why we don't get into it now. But it's just important. This guy's inventory has to be empty. And over here we can just put a normal track. Doesn't really matter what type it is. And on the back we need to use some red alloy wire to make a connection like so. Okay, Now there's only one last thing that we need to do to complete our little station, and that is to add the mechanism that will release the cart from this rail so that it can continue to go forward. To do this, we will put two blocks like this. Of course, I'm only using wool to highlight the different systems, so the blue is the cart stoppage and the green is the cart release. We will place another state cell, and again we have to rotate it. This time the arrow has to be pointing up. We will put a block here, and this is crucial, it has to be a red alloy wire. It cannot be a redstone wire, because a redstone wire, for whatever reason, if you put it besides rails, aligns itself like this, and it doesn't work. So it has to be a red alloy wire, and we put another red alloy wire here. It basically steals the redstone signal from this guy because it passes through this block and over here. And then we add a timer. And it's rotated wrong. Let's fix it. The arrow points down. That's the correct orientation. Now, the last and probably most crucial step, we need to set the timing for everything. For this guy, this is the release timer. 1 second is alright. That's also another plus of this design. If the timings shown here end up being too fast for a server, we can just slow it down. There aren't any hard timings here. Everything is customizable, which is great for servers. So this guy, 1 second, works pretty well. Again, that's the release. That's the next cart release timer. So that after this cart goes out, how long does this cart have to wait to move into here? 1 second is good enough. Next, this timer sets for how long the cart over here will be held captive before it's let go. I found that about 2.5 seconds is fast enough to get out while also not being stressful. And then this last state cell enables how long is this rail powered for the cart to pass through. This is very important for a server where we have lag and other weirdness. I found that half a second is very reliable. I haven't had any issues. So, half a second, 2.5 seconds, 1 second. And if we now complete the rails, we should be all done. So let's give it a little spin over here. And let's see. Yeah. So firstly, we've put a cart in here. Let's try to depart. We get held. And nothing happens, because I screwed something up. Oh, the joys. What? Oh! Duh. This guy was rotated wrong. I swear I practiced this before hitting record, but that's just what you do. I guess we can see if the card gets removed. Yeah, the card gets removed. So I guess that works. Right, I messed up the direction of the state cell, that's why it didn't work. The arrow has to point that way, not towards the block. Oh well. So, testing it again, spawning a card, we get sucked in. We travel through the station, get held for a while, and then released. Perfect. And if an empty card comes through, or if we just leave, it gets removed. Cool. And now if we try it with, let's just say, some captive prisoners to see if the whole thing works. So one guy goes through, another guy goes through. Then we can test if the separation works properly. And it does. And that's really it. There isn't much more to say. It's just a simple mechanism. It works really well. If you don't screw up building it, of course. Yeah. It just works. So I think that's gonna be it for today. And see you on the server soon. Bye!